The air is thick with the smell of expensive pomade, charred steak, and the metallic tang of unspoken threats. Dutch Schultz, born Arthur Flegenheimer, is sweating. He always sweats when he's winning, and tonight he thinks he's untouchable. Across from him sits a young, brash associate named Joey the Spark Leone. Joey is high on adrenaline and cheap whiskey. He's a mob punk in every sense of the word, loud, flashy, and oblivious to the predatory silence of the man sitting 2 tables away. That man is Carlo Gambino. He is 33 years old, sip-drinking a glass of red wine, his eyes as steady as a surgeon's. He doesn't speak. He observes. Suddenly, the rhythm of the restaurant breaks, a sharp clink of ice against glass. Joey Leone, fueled by a grievance over a territory split, stands up. The room goes quiet. Even the kitchen staff stops moving. "You think you're the king of the Bronx, Arthur?" Joey sneers. Without waiting for an answer, Joey flings his whiskey sour directly into Dutch Schultz's face. The liquid drips from Schultz's chin onto his silk tie. Splatter. Drip. Drip. Schultz doesn't move. He wipes his eyes slowly. Gambino at the other table lowers his glass. He doesn't look shocked, he looks disappointed. He knows that in this world, an insult is a debt that must be paid with interest. To understand how a drink in the face turned into one of the bloodiest weeks in organized crime history, we have to go back. Back to the moment when the beer baron of the Bronx realized he was no longer the hunter, but the prey. Joey Leone thought he had made a statement. He had no idea he had just signed a death warrant that would be executed by the most patient man in the room. 3 years earlier, Brooklyn, New York. Carlo Gambino was never the loudest man in the room, and that was his superpower. While men like Dutch Schultz were making headlines for tax evasion and public shootouts, Gambino was building a ghost empire. He understood the leg of the table theory. If you control the logistics, you control the man. He grew up in the honored society in Sicily. For him, the American mafia was too noisy, too disorganized. He watched Schultz with a mixture of fascination and disgust. Schultz was a volcano, unpredictable and prone to outbursts. "Arthur is a businessman who thinks he's a soldier," Carlo once whispered to his cousin, Paul Castellano, in the back of a dimly lit social club in South Brooklyn. The context was simple. Schultz was encroaching on the Italian lottery rackets. He was Jewish, operating in a world that was rapidly becoming dominated by the Commission, the board of directors formed by Lucky Luciano. Schultz refused to play by the rules. He refused to pay the tax to the Big Five families. Joey Leone was a pawn Schultz used to bridge the gap into Italian territory, but Joey was a liability. He was a small-time hood who thought that being seen with Schultz made him a giant. He didn't understand the hierarchy. He didn't understand that Carlo Gambino was already mapping out the future of New York, and in that map, there was no room for loud-mouthed punks or erratic barons. The drink thrown at the Palace Chop House wasn't just a personal insult. It was the spark that gave Gambino the excuse he needed to dismantle Schultz's entire operation. October 23rd, 1935. 10:15 p.m. Palace Chop House. Back in the restaurant, the silence is deafening. Schultz finally speaks. His voice is a low, raspy growl. "You got a lot of nerve, kid. You got more nerve than brains." Joey Leone laughs, but it's a hollow sound. He looks around, seeking approval from the other patrons, but everyone has found a sudden interest in their dinner plates. He looks at Carlo Gambino. Carlo doesn't smile. He simply nods, a gesture so subtle it's almost invisible. Joey takes this as a sign of support. It's the biggest mistake of his life. He turns back to Schultz, feeling like a hero. "Clean yourself up, Artie. You're retired. You just don't know it yet." Joey walks out of the restaurant, the bell on the door ringing, a bright, cheerful sound that contrasts with the predatory atmosphere. Schultz looks at his bodyguard, Lulu Rosenkrantz. No words are exchanged. A look is enough. But Gambino is faster. He signals one of his own men, a shadow in a trench coat standing near the coat rack. Gambino doesn't want Schultz to kill Joey yet. He wants Joey to lead them to the stash houses. He wants the inventory before the funeral. Joey Leone walked into the cold New Jersey night thinking he was a legend. He didn't realize that 4 different cars were about to start their engines, and none of them were his friends. October 24th, 1935. 02 a.m., an undisclosed warehouse, Jersey City. Joey Leone is hiding. The adrenaline has worn off, replaced by the cold, biting realization that he just assaulted the most violent man in the tri-state area. He's sitting on a crate of illegal industrial alcohol, clutching a .38 Special with sweaty palms. The warehouse smells of rust and stale rain. Outside, the fog is rolling in off the Hudson River. Every creak of the floorboard sounds like a gunshot. Suddenly, a voice emerges from the shadows. It's not Schultz's man. It's a calm, modulated voice. "You made a mess, Joey." It's one of Gambino's lieutenants. He offers Joey a cigarette. The flame of the lighter reveals the lieutenant's face. Stoic, professional. "Carlo wants to know why you did it," the man says. "He thinks maybe you have information. Information about Schultz's tax records. Information that could save your life." This is the Gambino way. He doesn't use a hammer when a needle will do. He's playing Joey like a violin. He wants to know exactly where Schultz is keeping his little black box, the ledger that contains the names of every crooked cop and politician in Schultz's pocket. If Gambino gets that box, he owns the city. Joey, desperate to survive, starts talking. He tells the Gambino soldier everything. He thinks he's buying his life. In reality, he's just making himself obsolete. October 24th, 1935. 11:02 a.m., a barbershop in Manhattan. While Joey Leone is spilling secrets in a warehouse, the heads of the 5 families are meeting. Lucky Luciano is there, Vito Genovese is there, and Carlo Gambino is in the corner, listening. The topic, Dutch Schultz. Schultz is demanding permission to kill Thomas Dewey, the special prosecutor who is breathing down his neck. The commission is horrified. Killing a high-ranking official like Dewey would bring the heat of 1,000 suns down on organized crime. "He's lost his mind," Luciano says, gesturing with a cigar. "He's going to get us all sent to the chair." Gambino speaks up. His voice is soft, making everyone lean in to hear him. "Arthur is already dead," Carlo says. "He just hasn't stopped breathing. And the kid, Leone, he provided the map. We don't need Schultz anymore. We don't need his noise. The decision is made. A hit is authorized, but it won't just be Schultz. It will be everyone associated with the insult. The commission needs to send a message. Discipline is more important than ego." The order was given. The targets were marked. By sunset, the streets of New Jersey would run red, and the mob punk would find out the true price of a whiskey sour. October 24th, 1935. 08:30 p.m., near the Newark subway entrance. Joey Leone is released. Gambino's men tell him he's safe, that they've smoothed things over with Schultz. They even give him a few $100s and tell him to get out of town. Joey believes them because he wants to believe them. He walks down the street, his collar turned up against the wind. The city feels different tonight. The streetlights seem dimmer, the shadows longer. He passes a newsstand. The headline screams about the Dewey investigation. Joey smiles. He thinks he's the one who started the revolution. As he nears the corner of Broad Street, a black Buick pulls up slowly. The window rolls down. Joey stops. He recognizes the man in the passenger seat. It's the same man who offered him a cigarette in the warehouse. "Hey, kid," the man says, "you forgot your change." Joey doesn't see the gun until it's too late. The first shot hits him in the chest, knocking the air out of his lungs. The second hits him in the throat, silencing his pride forever. He falls onto the cold pavement, his blood mixing with the rainwater in the gutter. Joey Leone was the first to fall, but he was just the opening act for the massacre that was about to unfold at the Palace Chop House. We return to the moment of the hit. Dutch Schultz is in the restroom of the Palace Chop House. He's washing the whiskey off his face, staring at his reflection in a cracked mirror. He's thinking about how he's going to peel the skin off Joey Leone. Outside the restroom door, the hitmen arrive. Charles the Bug Workman and Mendy Weiss, operatives for Murder Inc., acting on the commission's orders. They don't say a word. They walk in and open fire with a .45 caliber submachine gun and a .38 revolver. Lulu Rosenkrantz, Schultz's bodyguard, is hit first. He tries to reach for his gun, but his fingers won't cooperate. Abba Dabba Berman, Schultz's math genius, is shot through the head while he's still holding a fork. The sound is apocalyptic. The fine china shatters. The walls are sprayed with lead and gore. Inside the restroom, Schultz hears the chaos. He kicks the door open, but he's met with a hail of bullets. One enters his side, tearing through his organs. He stumbles back, clutching the sink. The beer baron was down. But the most haunting part of the night wasn't the shooting. It was what Schultz said as he lay dying. October 24th, 1935. 3 a.m. Newark City Hospital. The room smells of antiseptic, ozone, and the rotting scent of peritonitis. Dutch Schultz is no longer the beer baron of the Bronx. He is a shivering, sweating animal strapped to a hospital cot. The bullets from Murder, Inc. didn't kill him instantly. They tore through his intestines, dumping toxins into his bloodstream. His temperature is spiking to 106 degrees. He is literally cooking from the inside out. A police stenographer, F.J. Lang, sits in the corner. His pencil scratches against a yellow notepad. He's waiting for a confession, a name, a lead. But Arthur Flegenheimer is somewhere else. He's back in his childhood, or perhaps in a future he'll never see. A boy has never wept, nor dashed 1,000 Kim. Please let me get out of here. Schultz mutters, his voice a dry rasp. He screams about Frenchie and a lost suitcase. To the detectives, it's a lunatic's word salad, but outside in the rainy streets of Newark, the air is vibrating with a different frequency. Carlo Gambino isn't in a hospital. He's in a back office, listening to the radio reports. Every time Schultz babbles a new line of the Schultz rosary, Gambino's men are moving. While Schultz is hallucinating about childhood ghosts, Gambino's soldiers are pulling up to Schultz's garages in the Bronx. They don't arrive with guns blazing. They arrive with keys and envelopes of cash. They tell the workers, "Arthur is dying. He's talking to the cops. You want to stay with a dead man, or do you want to work for a ghost who pays?" The decision is instantaneous. The loyalty that Schultz thought he bought with fear evaporates in the heat of his own fever. By the time the sun rises over Newark, Schultz's entire distribution network, the trucks, the warehouses, the corrupt precinct captains, has been quietly re-indexed under the Gambino name. At 6:35 p.m., the beer baron finally stopped breathing. He left behind a riddle of a treasure and a vacuum of power, but the real mystery was how Carlo Gambino managed to steal an entire empire without firing a single shot of his own. 1 week later, a quiet restaurant in Little Italy. The atmosphere is heavy with the smell of garlic, expensive leather, and the weight of a new regime. Carlo Gambino sits at a small table near the kitchen. He likes the warmth. He's eating a simple meal, steak, medium rare, and a glass of deep, dark Barolo. No fanfare, no bodyguards with visible Tommy guns, just a man having dinner. A young associate, barely 20 years old, approaches the table. He's trembling, his hands buried deep in the pockets of his wool coat. He's seen the news. He saw the photos of Joey the Spark Leone face down in a Jersey City gutter. "Don Carlo," the boy whispers, leaning in. "The guys, they're talking. They say the kid, Joey, it was a waste. He was just a punk. He didn't know the rules. Was it really worth all that for a drink in the face?" Gambino doesn't stop chewing. He takes a slow sip of his wine, letting the silence stretch until the boy begins to sweat. Finally, he looks up. His eyes aren't angry. They are worse. They are indifferent. "He wasn't killed for the drink, Picciotto," Gambino says, his voice a soft melody of power. "He was killed because he broke the silence. He broke the atmosphere. In our world, the atmosphere is the only thing that keeps us alive. If you break the peace, you break the contract. And a broken contract has only one penalty." This moment marks the official end of the vaudeville era of the mob. The days of Al Capone's press conferences and Dutch Schultz's public brawls are over. Gambino is installing a new standard, the shadow government. From this point on, if the public knows your name, you've already failed. If the cops can find your books, you're already dead. He had used Joey Leone's hot-headedness as a scalpel. to excise a cancer like Schultz. It was the ultimate chess move. Gambino didn't just take the territory, he rebranded the soul of the American mafia. The legend of Dutch Schultz's hidden millions buried in the Catskills would fascinate treasure hunters for decades, but the real gold was the lesson Gambino left on that restaurant floor. Silence isn't just golden, it's lethal. If you stand on the corner of East Park Street today, the air doesn't smell of Dutch Schultz's expensive cigars or the iron-rich scent of the blood spilled on the Palace Chop House floor. Instead, you get the mundane exhaust of city buses and the faint aroma of roasting coffee from a nearby franchise. The building itself, the site of the massacre, is gone, demolished in the name of urban renewal. But the sidewalk still feels heavy. History doesn't just disappear, it sinks into the concrete. The story of the mob punk and the quiet architect isn't just a piece of Newark folklore, it's a masterclass in the economy of violence. Joey Leone thought he was a legend because he dared to be loud. He mistook visibility for power. He thought the splash of a whiskey sour against the face of Dutch Schultz was the sound of a revolution. He never realized that in the corner of that room, Carlo Gambino was watching, not with shock but with the cold mathematical precision of a man looking at a clock. Joey Leone's name is a footnote, a trivia question for true crime junkies who scour old newspaper archives. Dutch Schultz is a ghost story told in the dive bars of Jersey, his name synonymous with a hidden treasure that likely never existed. But Carlo Gambino became the blueprint. He died in 1976, not in a hail of bullets or on a cold hospital cot under police guard, but in his own bed. He passed away in a quiet, unassuming house on Long Island, while the sun set over the Atlantic and the evening breeze moved the curtains. He lived to be 74 years old, a staggering miracle in a profession where most men are lucky to see their 40th birthday. He won because he understood the one truth the mob punks of every generation fail to grasp. The loudest man in the room is the one with the biggest target on his back. Real power isn't found in a thrown drink, a flashy suit, or a public threat. Real power is the silence that follows the storm. It's the ability to wait for your opponent to trip over his own ego, and then to step over the body without ever getting blood on your shoes. Gambino didn't just survive the transition from the chaotic Baron era to the corporate commission era. He designed it. He turned a street gang into a shadow government that lasted for half a century. The next time you're in a crowded room and someone pushes you or someone insults you, take a breath. Remember the Palace Chop House. Remember the cold, patient eyes of Carlo Gambino sitting at that table, sipping his wine, waiting for the punk to make the move that would end his life. Ask yourself, is your pride worth the price of a permanent silence? Because in the city, the walls still have ears. The bricks still hold the heat of old grudges, and the shadows never forget. The night Dutch Schultz met his end, the rules of the game changed forever. The era of the star gangster died, and the era of the invisible boss began. But we want to know what you think. Was Joey Leone a man of misplaced courage standing up to a tyrant, or was he just a fool who signed his own death warrant? And if you were sitting at that table next to Gambino, would you have tried to stop the glass from being thrown, or would you have just waited for the check? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you want more deep dives into the shadows of history and the men who built empires in the dark, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The streets always have more stories to tell, and you don't want to be the last to hear them.